Okay, gang, I'm glad you could join me today, but today I'm specifically talking to Nolan, who has a question. Woo! Welcome to the Hideout, and we've got a good one for you today. And before we get started, though, please click subscribe. Click like when you do. Click the ringy dingy, get you a reminder. Check us out at sgt1911.com. All right? I really appreciate everybody a lot. Now, today we're going to talk about something that everybody's going to probably look at the title and go, oh shit, here we go again, more BS. But Nolan asked me a specific question. I'm going to give him an answer. You know, I try to do these. I can't always get them all, but I'm really going to make an effort. And you guys, some of you just going to click, you don't hear it. But I'd like for you to listen because I think I can make some sense out of it. Nolan asked Sarge, he says, Sarge, why do you prefer 45 over 9mm? I know. Yeah, it's been argued since the beginning of time, but I want you to hear my argument, okay? Because I've got a few little things you may or may not know. Some of you do know that back in the late 1890s, we had the Spanish-American War. Army guys down there with old Teddy Roosevelt going up the hill, they're shooting bad guys, bang, 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 with these 38 long coats, 124 grain, and what was happening? They were just bouncing off of them. The guy that emptied a 6-round revolver and the dude wouldn't go down. I mean, I shoot him 6 times, he wouldn't go down. So what happens? The military says, we need something with more knockdown power. I know you've heard it, hang with me. Lo and behold, later what happens? We come out with John Moses Browning 45 ACP. Now look what we've done. We jumped from a 38 long coat to a 45 ACP, but there's something in the middle. Everybody's favorite 9mm. Now, 9mm come out in like 1901, 10 years before the 1911, but about 4 or 5 years before the 45 ACP. So we need to ask a couple questions. We know the 38 long coat wasn't knocking anybody down. We also know now from 38 long coat, we went to a 9mm, or most countries in the world went to a 9mm. Why did the United States not go to the 9mm? Germans had it, Austrians had it, Swiss had it, they all had it. Why did we not go to it? Why did we go all the way to the 45 ACP? Knockdown power, that's why we went there. Now I'm going to go over a few things to try to tell you, I know you're going to talk about capacity, but I'm going to get to that. 8 rounds in a 45 ACP. Is how much lead at 230 grains apiece. It's the equivalent to 16 rounds of 9mm at 115 grams apiece. Same amount of lead. Yes, one's moving faster than the other and one's moving slower than the other. Well, let's go back in time a little bit more to a guy called Taylor. A guy named Taylor, he come out with what was called the Taylor knockout factor. And what this is he takes the weight of a bullet, like this 9mm here, 115 grain 9mm bullet. Got it? He got 124 grain, 357, right there. And then he's got a 230 grain 45 ACP right there. Now it's obvious the 45 ACP is bigger, but why did we not go that route? Well, old Taylor says, listen, I want to figure out which one of these bullets has the most knockdown power. He recognizes that the 9mm and some of these other are much faster than others. But he also knows some of these are bigger than the other. So what he does, he says, listen, let's say, and I've got some numbers here, the velocity of this thing coming out of the barrel is X. Multiply that times the weight of the bullet, right? Multiply that times the diameter of the bullet. We're good? And then divide it by 7,000 and that puts it in pounds. So I'm going to try to give you what he come up with here. And I'm going to use some notes so you guys want to try to calculate some of these yourself. He says the mass how heavy it is, times the velocity, times the diameter, divided by 7,000. And it will give you anywhere between a number of 0 and 150. Now the reason he's using 7,000 is so he can transpose this into pounds. Like how many pounds of knockdown factor, knockdown power does it have? So let's start with that 38 long coat that we know that around 1900 it wasn't working. If we take a 125 grain bullet, 38 long coat was moving slow, 772 feet per second, and it's 300.357 divided by 7,000. The knockdown power of a 38 long coat was only 4.9. That's not very damn big. No wonder it's bouncing off of people. And that's in the 1900s, late 1800s, 1900s. Now let's go to the 9mm, which came out in 1901. We take the same thing. We take the 115 grain bullet. It's traveling 1,180 feet per second times the 0.355 divided by the 7,000. It has a knockdown factor of 6.8. Now let's look at them compared together. The 9mm is not significantly higher than the 38 long coat. Just a little, not much. But let's move ahead. So we did move up. There's more to the story, hang with me. 45 ACP come out. 45 ACP, twice the size of the 9mm. 230 grain bullet, moving at a slower 835 feet per second. Its diameter is 0.452 divided by 7,000. The knockout factor is 12.4. 12.4, it has twice the knockout power as a 9mm. Twice the knockout power. So there is one reason, 1911 prefers the 45. Now I know you're going to tell me I get 18 rounds of 9mm. And I'm going to say, okay, you got 18 rounds. I just need 9. I have personally been involved, not been involved, but been around where a single 22 long rifle placed perfectly in the heart dropped a man in his tracks. Dropped him. Dead. Much, much smaller than this. So it does matter where you hit. But think about what we're doing. We've got a big bullet and it's moving big and slow. Now, along, I'm gonna say in, I'm guessing here, 60s, 70s, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty said, listen, we all want everybody to use the same thing. We all want everybody to use the 7.62 by 51 round. And everybody was on board with that except who? The United States. Why did the United States not want to do it? They wanted to use the smaller 5.56. Why? So they could carry more ammo. It was lighter, it was smaller, and they thought that's better. But they refused to drop the 45 ACP, which would have been the identical same situation as 7.62 by 51 versus the 9mm. Or, I'm sorry, 7.62 by 51 versus 5.56. So the United States says we want the bigger one, or the smaller one. We don't want the bigger one. But why didn't they say that with a pistol? With a pistol, their terminology or philosophy just reversed, and they said, no, we want the bigger one and not the smaller one. Even if we have more ammo available, we want less ammo but more knockdown power. So the philosophy of the U.S. military was knockdown power, knockdown power, knockdown power. They didn't care. Pissed everybody off. We, the United States, do not want a 7.62 by 51 rifle. We want a 5.56. NATO pissed everybody off. But then, lo and behold, years later, we do adopt the 9mm. Here's why we adopt the 9mm. We're looking for guns to replace the 1911. Do the 1911s need to be replaced? Some of those guns were 75 years old or older that had been used, so they were probably well worn out, but they still ran just fine. They still had that knockdown power. But here's the deal. We come along now, and I believe it just got political, because we not only we switched to the 9mm from the 45 ACP, we bought these from one of the NATO countries, not even our own country. So yeah, we caved. Probably a politician caved and said, we're not worried about knockdown power. We want to be like you. So why did we do that? We caved and we got NATO 9mm, and we gave the contract to somebody other than Colt or Ruger or an American firm. We gave it to Beretta. Beretta goes back after a few years, and then we give a contract to SIG, same 9mm. Part of the problem we have there is not that the 45 ACP was not the bullet that we needed. Part of the problem is we decide we need to have handguns that have less recoil. We have to have handguns that fit more of the ladies' size hands. We have to have more handguns that are for people who can't control the 45s. So, I mean, I could go off on a tangent here and say, why do I want a 45? Why do I do it? Because I can control a 45. My hand goes around a 45 well. I drove tent stakes with a 1911. I'm not driving tent stake with a frickin' 9mm. But the problem is we can go back all the way back and do the knockdown power and say which one has the most knockdown power. The 45 ACP has the knockdown power. It's proven mathematically, but why did we do it? NATO. Women's hands, smaller guys, smaller women. NATO shipping, sharing, it's political. It's all about not what's the best. It's what our government thinks they need to do and could be the cheapest thing to do. I'm going to trade a plastic polymer pistol for a metal gun that's hundreds of years old. We can talk about it here. Now, let's go just a little bit further. I happen to also do it on 10mm. A 10mm round is a 12.9. Compared to the 45, virtually no difference. 12.4, very, very little. 10mm. Now remember, we're not talking about just weight. We're not talking about just speed. We're not talking about just diameter. We're taking all of these. And if you go down to the 40 cal is even less. The 40 cal just barely beats out a 9mm by just a hair. So which one are we wanting to use? We should be back at the 45 where the knockdown power is at, but we don't. What's wrong with a double stack 45? Well, our guys and gals don't have little bitty hands. They have little bitty hands and they can't control what I'm calling a man's gun. That's what is the bottom line. Now, why does the 9mm continue to grow, and continue to grow? Why is it every gun out there is a polymer 9mm? Right here's the reason. Everyone wants to be like G.I. Joe. That's it. Everybody wants to get out here and put on their freaking jungle gym outfit, their body armor, their goggles, their fake ass camo set. The police officers want to dress like they're in the military. They want to act like this shit. And then guess what happens? Not just with a 9mm, but with 5.56 is a good example. If the military wants it, the police want it. If the military and the police want it, then the civilians want it. It doesn't make any difference whether it's good or bad. They want to be like G.I. Joe. And that's what it boils down to. Why are we not independent enough to make up our own decision about what do you shoot best and what works best for you? It could be a 22, it could be a 380, it could be a whatever it is. It could be the 9mm, it could be the 38 long coat. For certain 1911, I prefer to kick you in the balls, 230 grain, 45 ACP. Now, a couple of more things we'll finish up. I know I'm going to hear about, well, they make 9mm projectiles better than they used to. Sure they do. They make Hydra shocks, Hornady critical defense, but you know what? They make the same damn thing in a 45 ACP, don't you? Hydra shocks, Hornady critical defense. So don't tell me that 9mm moved above in the terminal velocity, in the knockdown factor, because it did not. The same little bit of engineering work you did on this you also did on this. So that's insignificant in our thing here. One last thing I'll tell you briefly about why I personally like a 45 ACP. I know a couple of reasons, and we're not gonna call no names, where someone has been hit 4 or 5 times with a 9mm and not go down. And I know somebody's been hit 1 time with a 45, they did go down. So if I'm shooting 4 or 5 of these little 9mm at one guy, target acquisition, yeah, I've got more rounds, but I gotta acquire target. I'm on this target for 5 rounds. Well, I got this guy approaching me. I'm on this target for 1 round. I'm freaking done. I'm not bam, 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 dragging this shit out from everywhere. I got 1 projectile knocking somebody on their ass. Now, final thought. I've got a terrible scar. I'll never show it to you because YouTube would freaking shut us down for sure. The surgeon who worked on me, and I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. Many bullet wounds. Rarely, he said, and I'm quoting him, rarely has he ever seen anyone not survive a 9mm. Rarely. But in his entire career as a surgeon, he's only seen 1 person survive a 45 ACP. So we can look at all of these numbers and do all the work and add them up and do all this stuff and do it. What it boils down to is hands-on experience. Which one of these is going to do a better job? I think the 45 ACP is going to do a better job. If you have to shoot me twice, 3 times, 4 times, I just wasted 1 second and 1 round on you and we're done. So anyway, I hope you guys can get a little bit of information about the Tater knockout factor, about why I prefer a 45. Nolan wanted to know. I know some of you are just going to come up with these bullshit off the wall answers, and that's fine. I know if you prefer 9mm, that is fine. I don't care what you prefer. Nolan asked me what I preferred and why I preferred it, and now you got it. So until we get to shoot together and shoot again, shoot safe and shoot straight.